Hi, welcome to Superhero Rundown. I'm Crimson, and today we're talking about grief, loss, and trauma. This is a very heavy topic, so if you want to skip it, I get it. But if not, let's talk about WandaVision.
I won't be talking about the plot as much as the elements of how both Vision and Wanda deal with the sitcom aspect of their lives and how Wanda specifically deals with her grief and loss of Vision. We will start with Infinity War, which I am still mad about. Anyway, you remember how Wanda destroyed the Mind Stone and then Thanos rewound time and just killed Vision outright by taking the stone as Wanda watched? Yeah, so we as an audience know that Vision is dead.
So what's he doing in WandaVision?
Well, it feels like we've always been together.
From the very first episode of the show, Vision does suspect something is wrong, but he never really voices it as he does in later episodes. And the interesting thing about the quote, both Vision and Wanda have no idea where they are from, where they married, when they married. In essence, they don't know their own story.
Which is weird because if you watch old sitcoms, most characters know their own backstory and what they're motivated by.
Wanda chooses domesticity and womanhood. The fantasy Wanda weaves for herself is one of domesticity. Her magical force field pops up in Westview, New Jersey, because the suburb is where she and Vision plan to build a home and start a family. With that future closed off, Wanda plunges into the past, casting herself as an idealized housewife who cooks, cleans, and nurtures. Motherhood is a key part of said fantasy, with Wanda mourning not just what she's lost, but also the children she and Vision will never have. And while it's hardly unprecedented for male superheroes to care about their kids, remember Hawkeye's farm, anxiety around motherhood is a classic trope in horror, a genre WandaVision dabbled in from time to time, but the MCU has never committed to in full. Pregnancy, birth, and parenting can be gnarly stuff, making for rich thematic territory. Anyway, Wanda gives birth to twins, Billy and Tommy. This is when things start to go awry, as it were. And on normal sitcoms, most things are resolved in an episode or two. But not in WandaVision. On Family Ties, a problem can be introduced and resolved in the same half hour. But Wanda's pain over her parents, over Pietro, and now over Vision doesn't simply go away because the producer credit has popped up on screen. Wanda's entire pregnancy spans roughly one episode, which is extreme even for very old sitcoms. Lucy on I Love Lucy got to be pregnant for half a dozen episodes before giving birth, even if she wasn't allowed to use the word pregnant on TV in the 50s, but only enhances the unreal nature of both the twins and of Westview as a whole. The fake Pietro stirs up a lot of complex and powerful emotions for Wanda in the Malcolm homage episode, and then he's just absent with no real explanation the following week. Geraldine, who is actually Monica Rambeau, tells Wanda that she knows that Wanda lost Pietro to Ultron. Wanda sends her back through the barrier that she had erected around Westview to protect Vision. But she still sees Vision as he had died by Thanos for a split second before everything goes back to normal. She doesn't want to deal with her grief, so she doesn't.
I have everything under control.
Do you, though?
Some of the characters also ask Wanda if she wants the take done again. It leaves another piece for the audience, and it allows Vision to start putting some of the pieces together on his own. I would like to point out that it's subtle at first, but then actually picks up in the middle of the season. Now, we know that SWORD is outside the Hex. Wanda went to go see Vision's corpse 9 days ago at SWORD headquarters. When Hayward and SWORD interfere with her life in the sitcom, she comes out from the barrier and tells them to leave her alone. When the family dog is killed, Wanda has to tell the boys that the urge to run from grief is very powerful. Wanda explains that there are rules in life and they can't just bring back the dead, despite the fact that she brought back Vision.
But technically he's a magical construct, so it's not actually Vision's original body, so that makes it okay, right? No, it doesn't. She's a hypocrite, and I'm tired of pretending she's not.
Finally, it all comes to a head. Vision has been asking people what has been going on. Things have been going awry in the town, and Wanda is trying to just live her life with her family despite the fact that one of them is a fucking construct. Vision finally confronts Wanda and tells her that he knows she's controlling the town. She tries to roll the credits on the episode, but Vision keeps going until they are flying in the living room. When he asks what's outside of Westview, she deflects. He can't remember his life before Westview because he's been dead since Infinity War. Pietro then shows up, but is recast. Pietro tells Wanda that he knows he looks different and that if he had found paradise, he wouldn't want to be reminded of what happened either.
What happened to your accent?
What happened to yours?
Pietro tells Wanda that some things have improved under her watch. He is impressed more than anything, and he says she can talk to him. Wanda explains that she only remembers feeling completely alone. Nothingness.
Which is the grief that Monica describes to Hayward after she's been ejected from the barrier.
Meanwhile, Vision goes toward the edge of Westview. As he goes to the edge of town, the residents are not moving as much. In fact, not much is moving. Vision finds Agnes at the edge of Ellis Avenue where Wanda had told the boys not to go. Agnes tells Vision that he's dead. She also tells him that no one leaves. Wanda doesn't let them think about leaving. Vision goes to the barrier. Vision goes through the barrier and finds himself disintegrating. Billy, having inherited his mother's magic, senses that Vision is through the barrier and goes to warn Wanda. Wanda, learning this, expands the barrier to save Vision.
And remember, this entire thing is about her shielding herself from her grief. And if the one thing she doesn't want to deal with is trying to leave, of course she's going to try and protect it.
Darcy, who's been outside the barrier until its expansion, is woken by Vision. Darcy explains that Vision came back with the Time Stone and Thanos killed him right in front of Wanda. Darcy explains about Ultron and how Vision was created. She also explains that Wanda's love for Vision and his for her is real, and that they belong together. Agatha Harkness, a witch and the nosy neighbor, confronts Wanda with her past. First with her parents' death, then her interaction with the Mind Stone, then at the Avengers compound where Vision and Wanda fall in love. Vision asks what he can do for her, and she tells him that she wants to see Pietro again. She describes a wave of grief washing over her again and again, that it's going to drown her. Vision tells her it can't all be sorrow.
But what is grief, if not love persevering?
Which is probably the best quote in the entire show, because that is what grief is.
And then we see the events that led Wanda to Westview. Her going to Sword to bury Vision because that's all she wants. But Hayward manipulates her and feeds on her grief. She leaves and goes to Westview. She drives to an empty lot that she owns with Vision, and in her grief manifests a house and everything that led to the sitcom in the first place. She turns the entire town into a sitcom and creates Vision in her grief as well. After the big battle, they tuck Billy and Tommy into bed. Vision and Wanda agree that she needs to fix things and that it won't be fixed for them. She takes the barrier down and returns everything to normal around town. They say goodbye as the barrier closes in around the house where it all started.
You, Vision, are the piece of the Mind Stone that lives in me, but mostly you're my love.
And then Vision disappears. At the end of WandaVision, Wanda and Vision stand together in the world Wanda has lovingly created for them, watching it all collapse. She cannot sustain this pretense any longer, so her perfect American suburban life with her husband and 2 kids and briefly a dog is all dissolving. They've tucked the boys in and said goodbye, and now Wanda and Vision embrace, knowing that one of them is purely a figment of the other's grief-driven magical thinking. Vision will fall apart, and Wanda will be left alone. What can they possibly say to one another? This has to be the end, and the episode title makes that plain. It's called The Series Finale. Series, not season. In the TV world, we know what that means.
So before I get to why I did this episode, I want to talk about how I hate the fact that Wanda is the villain in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
I really wish that there had been more to develop Wanda. She went from actually learning something to being corrupted by the Darkhold, and while I can believe that is actually what's happening to Wanda as a character, it didn't sit well with me after seeing Multiverse. Lacey Bauer shows you exactly what I mean. Gone is the nuanced understanding of what Wanda has been forced to sacrifice in the name of the greater good. The show's delicate depiction of grief and the emotional trauma it leaves behind, and its innate understanding that her desire for her family wasn't about power, it was about peace. In its place is a sort of maternal madness in which Wanda is essentially only defined by her desire to find some version, any version of her sons. Equally erased are Wanda's hard-won steps forward, mentally and emotionally speaking. Yes, in WandaVision she did something terrible in the name of her grief by mind-controlling a town, but she realized it was wrong and chose to undo it herself, with the full knowledge and understanding of the pain it would cause her to have to say goodbye to the family she made. That's growth, and it's something Multiverse of Madness conveniently chooses to ignore. Essentially telling the exact same story again, just with a higher body count and a lot less personal agency. After all, in the film, Wanda's also been corrupted by an evil magical book called the Darkhold, so it's not even clear how many of her choices are her own.
And that's my point. At the end of WandaVision, she's learned something. She understands what she's doing, and she works to correct it, even if it means sacrificing the family that she adores.
Now, don't get me wrong. I liked the movie. I thought America Chavez was brilliant, and I thought the Illuminati in a different universe was a great way to see some characters we haven't even seen yet in the MCU proper. But Wanda's arc in WandaVision kind of hangs over it. It feels like Marvel wants her to be a villain and a victim, but it falls a bit flat in the film. MCU Wanda, like comics Wanda, is villain and victim, a dangerous tool for older male bad guys to use. She's a symbol of failed but sexy femininity, a woman too strange and too hurt to be the sex symbol her body would otherwise yield. Her powers, illusions, vague magic that recast the world, probability hexes that make unlikely outcomes certain, match the mental health conditions that are often produced by complex childhood trauma. Disassociation, denial, retreats into fantasy, refusals to live in a world that one can neither dismiss nor accept. My problem with this movie is that I wanted Wanda to move forward from WandaVision. I wanted to see how she dealt with her grief in a positive way. I was invested in the show because of how she was dealing with her grief at the end. She outsmarted Agatha with runes, something that Agatha taught her inadvertently. I honestly think that what Infinity War and Endgame got wrong with their women, WandaVision nailed. Wanda's grief and trauma was nuanced in the show.
But in Doctor Strange, it's a generic supervillain origin story. I mean, when Wanda brought up Westview, I was actually pretty excited because I wanted to see where it would go. But Strange just waves it off, and less than a minute later, she's the villain.
Oh, and for those of you saying she was corrupted by black magic, so was Strange. So that kind of denies Wanda agency in her own story, which is bad, in case that wasn't clear. WandaVision is explicitly about Wanda acknowledging her pain, taking responsibility, and trying to move forward despite everything she has lost in the process.
So why am I making this episode if that's the case? It's as nuanced as WandaVision itself. I'm gonna drop my attitude on life right now and give it to you straight. I lost my wife. And I didn't really share it with a lot of people except for very close friends of mine. But let me explain.
My wife had dissociative identity disorder. You may have seen Iveria, my former editor, on Twitter. Iveria is one of the alters in Aspiri's body. In the spring, I had made the decision with my wife to let them go to Germany to be with someone they deeply care about. In the process, Aspiri and one of the alters, Lex, switched hosting duties on their body.
Doom Patrol is really a great help in explaining this somewhat. Without the superpowers, anyway.
Anyway, Aspiri never woke up after the switch. We've tried all that we can think of. She has not gotten back up. She's still there, but dormant. At least that's my understanding of it. I grieve for her because I don't think she's coming back. And if I had Wanda's powers, I would do the exact same thing.
I would grieve by recreating her exactly how I remember her. I would do it just so that I could see her one more time. To tell her that I loved her. That she is loved. That we need her. That Echo needs her. That Hime needs her. That I need her.
Because that's the rub, isn't it? When someone we love dies, we may hope we'll see them again, and in the meantime, our sadness is the continued evidence of our love for them. There are a little couplet of grief platitudes, but that doesn't mean they're necessarily bad. Platitudes are cheap and reductionist, but sometimes it's the easy, simple stuff that breaks through. Sitcoms and superhero shows are great examples. They're accessible and they're typically undemanding on an aesthetic and formal level, and sometimes that's the stuff that really, really hits. Wanda's grief and pain are real. It doesn't matter that she created a sitcom for herself. It doesn't matter that I threw myself into anything that I could because I bottled everything up and exploded. I am not good at grief, but then I don't think anyone is. I don't know how to explain to you that DID is real and that it affects my life in more ways than you could possibly imagine. But I do know that grief is something I will always have.
And I feel like Wanda taught me that it's okay to grieve, but maybe not, take it out on people who have nothing to do with it.